I really want to share some further history on the reclassification of melanated aboriginals. It's very, very well documented, but I feel like my audience hasn't seen a lot of footage from the elders, whether a part of the tribes on the East Coast or the Midwest, who've actually lived through some of this racial reclassification. So, without further ado, let's go ahead and get on down to it.
The Great Spirit is all things. He is in the air we breathe. The Great Spirit is our Father. But the earth is our mother. She nourishes us. That which we put into the ground, she returns to us. Wabanaki. Mother Earth that stands before you is an ancient land. The great glacier has long ago scraped the mountains of soil, made them round. Mother Earth gave the people who hunted its forests, fished its streams, and planted its fields sustenance. But the land did not belong to the people, for it was Mother Earth. And Mother Earth cannot be owned. The people were the caretaker, the steward for Mother Earth, seeking harmony for what they needed and what was good for their mother. And the people were called the Nipmuc, the freshwater people. The land before you was the land of the Nipmuc, the caretakers for Mother Earth. Even the river knew who protected it, for it was called the Nipmuc River. Hi, I'm
And shout out to Engine Radio. See, this is why I love my audience. Each one teach one. I don't even know which movie you're referring to, Engine Radio. So make sure to shoot me an email, because we can definitely get that added to the movie club list. They say, what about the movie with Bill Cosby where the pale woman called him a drunken engine? Yeah. Yeah, a lot of those movies, a lot of those spaghetti westerns from like the 70s, early 80s, they were very candid about calling people who were clearly black Indian for whatever reason. So yeah, clever observation.
Ranger Chuck Arning with the National Park Service here in the Blackstone River Valley National Heritage Corridor. And it's true. The early maps indicate this body of water to be the Nipmuc River. Of course, we know it as the Blackstone River today, and we think it got its name from William Blackstone, who was the first English settler here in 1635. You see, we think that the traders who frequented Roger Williams' trading post in Providence in the late 1640s referred to the river as Mr. Blackstone's River. And of course, we know the story of the native peoples here, the Narragansett, the Wampanoags, the Nipmucs, the Niantics, the Piquas, and all the other native tribes. We know their story, don't we? Of course we do, because the history books tell us that when the English settlers came here, they brought with them epidemics, and there was a vicious, nasty war, and more epidemics, and wiped clean the landscape of the native peoples here. That's what the history books say. Matter of fact, in 1822,
Come on, guys. Before we get into what happened in 1822, this park ranger cooking. I'm gonna let this man cook too. I'm gonna let this man cook. And let me know if you guys want me to leave the subtitles on or off. Guys, the Europeans want us to believe, oh yeah, no, we came over here and the Indians were nice and Thanksgiving we ate. And then they all got sick and died and left this land empty. So it's ours now from sea to shining sea. No, 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 no. Those Indians resisted you removing them from their ancestral homeland and putting them in Holocaust camps, plantations, reservations, in more recent years, ghettos. And after they lost many armed conflicts, you made them prisoners of war and reclassified them, miseducated their youth, enslaved them, and then reclassified them to the point where modern day you're calling them African Americans. I mean, guys, it's really disgusting with the reclassification, y'all. It's really disgusting. And that's why one of the first things I wanted to make sure to highlight on my channel, since this is my crowning jewel, since this is my little baby I've been working on, one of the most important things I wanted to highlight straight off the jump is the reclassification efforts throughout the years. Again, Christopher Columbus, Spanish, European, real name Cristobal Colon. But you know, they angelicize his name and call him Christopher Columbus. No, Spanish motherfucker Cristobal Colon calls us Indian in 1492. Then, after Bacon's Rebellion, 1682, we get reclassified as Negro. Then in 1851, we get labeled as colored. And then a few short years after that, they come out with the NAACP, National Association for the Advancement of Colored People, which was actually founded and funded by a whole bunch of white people who were descendants of abolitionists. That although they act like abolitionists are really, two wing of the same bird, and they was running some CIA, black ops, psyops to really maintain control over Native Black American culture and opinion. But that's for another discussion. But 1851, we become colored. We become black in the 60s. We take it, flip it, and say, God damn it, I'll say it loud, I'm black and I'm proud. So they said, hold up. We got to call it audible. We got to call them something else real soon. So 1988, by way of Jesse Jackson, we become African American. If you look at the reclassification efforts, it's kind of every like 100 to 200 years, right? Like this is about 200 years, I think. This is about about 100 or so years. This is about like 100 or so years. But then once we made black something to be globally admired, once we made that something that was so beautiful, something revered, they said, hold up, wait a minute, call audible. You guys are African Americans now. Come on. Let's get into it, y'all. Let's get into it.
Secretary of War received a report on Indian affairs that stated that the Indian communities in New England were just a few feeble remnants teetering on the brink of extinction. That's what the history books tell us. Well, my friends, I'm going to suggest to you that the history books are wrong. They don't tell us the story of the native peoples here, and it's a much larger story and one we need to know about. And I want you to focus on one concept. He who writes the history controls the history. So join me as we take a hard look at the written history and rediscover the people of the Nipmuc Nation.
Heard that song, I was country before country was even cool. Well, I was Nipmuc before being Nipmuc was cool. And it definitely was not a cool thing.
As the Wampanoag medicine person, Slow Turtle used to express it, we were born to be anthropologists. We study white people all our lives. It's the only way to get along in this world.
If the Indians won, it was a massacre. If the colonists won, it was a battle. And I think that that needs to be brought out, because we know it wasn't that way.
You're probably wondering why two rangers in National Park Service are sitting in the middle of the woods with books. We have to remember, we're readers of history.